Welcome back. We talked about policies, point of view of the European Commission. We talked about regulations. We talked about the operationalization of data space and through trusted data transactions, effort in standardization. And now we referred quite a number of time about use cases. And this is now the time for this exchange where basically from the feedback from the business will be discussed through this session. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Didier. Hello, everyone, and thank you again, Dawex, for organizing this event. I'm really proud of being the moderator of this panel, Driving Business Value with Data Exchange and AI, cross-industry perspective. I'm Sébastien Picarda, an independent data space expert working in aeronautics, health, and also buildings industries. I was also the former CEO of Hub, and during the panel, I will take 3 minutes to make you a feedback about this 8 years experience for the farming industry. But first of all, thank you for all the panelists to be present here. And there will be 2 rounds of questions and with 2 rounds of experience. What was really important for us is to make a feedback about what is your experience in your company, in your everyday life. And so we will start with Romain Rollet, Head of Data Solutions for Hub One DataTrust. He will speak about the data creation, and maybe I will start with that first of all, as an introduction before Romain. When we spoke about use cases, we think about data creation. Where is value created in a data space? Is value created in a transaction, in data transaction, so supervised in a data intermediary? Or is value created in use cases managed by data space participant? Or both? And so that will be the guidelines for all the intervention of these 4 panelists, and they will make the feedback about it. So, Romain, now the floor is yours, and you will explain us how in the airport infrastructures we can create value.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. DataTrust is a data intermediary for the airport ecosystem, and we consider ourselves as airport intelligence specialists, also AI. So to answer your question, I think both. The value is both parts. Why? Because, the things where we can all, I think, rely on is a bad human resources management at the airport has very huge consequences, and we can all attest that regarding the long queue you can see at the airport in post-pandemic context, for instance, in London, in Amsterdam, and it's a very challenging thing to manage human resources. So that's one of the big problems terminal service provider at the airport could have. And we are helping them, that's our role as a data intermediary, to help them to find the right data useful for their use cases. So how to manage the human resources better than before, how to take performance-based contract engagement regarding best effort as before. And so doing that, we help them to build useful data services that helps to size the right team for the right task at the right moment. How do we do that? So the difficulty is to have access to the data from the provider. The data at the airport could come from an airline, for example, the passenger number in flight. But the problem is that it could be a very sensitive one because it can be linked to the load factor, which is a very critical economical KPI for the airlines. So that they don't want to reveal it to subcontractor of the airport. It's something they won't do. So what we do is that we give proof to the provider that the data is aggregated and not revealed to the consumer. So they have aggregated data that can be useful for them to size efficiently their team. So concrete use cases, for instance, for the Paris Olympic Games back in 2024, we did provide a specific API that were directly usable by the Olympic Committee to understand when the sports delegation will arrive, at which terminal, which kind of services do they need? Do they need special buses to go to the village? Are they going somewhere else? And so we build a specific data service from raw data to directly address their use cases. And we can also speak about the cleaning team, the welcoming staff at the airport. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Now, after the airport, we will speak about logistics. And so this is Pierre Lenclud, Chief Data Officer from Heppner. And during the preparation video, you said that you have a great job. Your job is to create a physical link between industries and transport infrastructures. So in this situation, how can you use?
Exactly. We are the physical link between the manufacturers, the consumers, but also the customs, the airports. And for instance, if we take an example which can occur in Valeo, we need a European manufacturer needs a spare part urgently. So we have to make all the transportation from the factory in India, for example, and to send it to the airport with a truck carrier. Then we have to do the customs. Then from an airline from India to Doha with Qatar Airways, and then another airline from Doha to it's expensive way, but it's urgent, that's why. And then from Doha to Brussels, for example, we have also another truck carrier from Brussels to the factory of the car company, and that shows that there is a really fragmented ecosystem in the transport and logistic. And at the moment, as Christophe said before, we are still using end-to-end, point-to-point connections and transactions, which is not really collaborative. So we don't give visibility to our customers for all the supply chain, because we work with contractors, subcontractors, and all this and point-to-point communication that doesn't enable us to communicate in a collaborative way. So what we are doing, and I think it's one of the backbone of the standardization, is to speak the same language, the same semantic layer, to be able to give all the business partners of the transport and logistic the same way to transport the same language to transport shipment from point A to point B, even if it's sea freight, air freight, road transport. So for this, we are working on the same language, and I think that's the start of our standardization.
Thank you. So you spoke about Valeo, and so on your right, you have Jean-Baptiste Burtscher, so External Affairs Director of Valeo, and you will explain us how a data space structures the ecosystem of partners in a supply chain with your experience of data for Industry X and Catena X.
Yes, sure. So thank you for the invitation, and very happy to be with you on that today. So yes, as said, so I'm in charge of public affairs and partnership for Valeo, and very much well involved in that data space now since a few years. Also in the board of Catena X, and as well we are in that project, the French project, so supported by the French government, which is data for manufacturing. Well, just maybe just a super brief word on why this is absolutely needed now in the automotive industry, and also to explain what we're experiencing. So the very simple thing to give a very punchline here is that we are in the world specifically in the automotive industry where you cannot master everything alone by design, by principle, and this is the same for data. So if you think that you will be able to master the next product development, the next capabilities of the automated vehicles, or even electrification, where you imagine that you have a car that will be connected to the grid, that will have maybe too much energy, that will give energy to the grid to support the fact that we have this, I would say, multi-source of energy production. So that's what we call the vehicle-to-grid capacity. I mean, if you imagine all that vehicle driving alone on the road, getting data not just from their own, but also from the outside of the vehicle, I mean, this is a word of enormous complexity. So here I'm just talking about the mobility use case, but behind that, I mean, you need to imagine that we're getting even more and more complicated and complex in terms of hardware, in terms of software development. So this is I would say that big digital continuity from product development, production, and product life is getting even more complex. So that's the reason why we believe that one of the bricks we want to activate in that ecosystem is to go for data spaces, because that's the way we see, I would say, the right channel for indeed exchanging data. And there I'm very close to what I said earlier. This is an ecosystem principle, so you're not here to say I'm going to take everything, or I'm just entering that in a transaction paradigm, like I want to get paid for everything I give to the others. Otherwise, this is not going to fly. So this is really the entry point, and I think this is one of the complexity of our sector also, where it's an enormous shift in terms of mindset, but because we were used to be every time and all the time competitors, all among us, we are living in a very competitive landscape, not just in Europe, but also outside of Europe. I mean, you all know that, I mean, the industry is actually experiencing some ups and downs. And I would say competition comes from China, competition comes from the US, and there you have completely different rules that applies and different ecosystem that applies in terms of data sharing, data production. So, I mean, the data space logic is also here to serve that idea that we can create competition, but at the end of the day, build an ecosystem where we team up in terms of sharing the cost, sharing the burden of that data sharing. So that's really the entry point of what we are trying to achieve. Then, I would say currently, and this is also what I like in that data space topic, is that you have different data spaces emerging with the idea that if you think that one fits all, I mean, this is not going to happen. So we need to think about the fact that we will have a multiple level of data spaces. So the two ones I was just mentioning, so CEN-CENELEC has started in Germany. Now it's getting very global. Many developments also going to China, going to the US, because we think we follow also the logic of the supply chain and where the value is today in terms of automotive production. It's very much, I would say, supply chain oriented. So the idea of CEN-CENELEC is really to connect the supply chain suppliers to their clients with use case related to capacity and image management, traceability, quality management, carbon footprints, those kinds of things. And then we are in another data space, which is more related to the shop floor, to the production, where we try indeed to make sure that we are able to manage or to create the digital continuity and manage the data at, I would say, at large production scale. And this is one of my points here as well. I mean, data space is also here to help to transition our industry in terms of industrial footprint. I mean, we are an old industry compared to others. So I'm also living with legacy factories, with legacy production tools. And I'm not going to invest from scratch for a new factory. And that's not the way we work, specifically with the budget constraint that we have. So someone before mentioned also that everything starts with, at some point, some physical things. I mean, this is also the nice way to start from IoT and the way to bring intelligence in the machine, in the production system, and to go to the next level in terms of capacity to connect the different players, share data, and have a large-scale effect at the large production capacity. I mean, we have 200 factories worldwide, so this is kind of critical for us to be able to move there. And it's not just a question of cloud topic; it's really a way of how you're able to master your data and master, I mean, the people that contribute to your production system. So maybe I stop here to just, and I think it's a good introduction of what we're experiencing in the automotive industry.
Okay, thanks. And now we will switch to the information and media industry with Carole Guirado. So you are a journalist and project managers for European product. And so you have a great punchline saying that you want to reinvent intermediation. So can you explain us why you want to reinvent intermediation?
First, good morning, and thank you for this invitation. So before explaining how to recreate the link and the link between data and our data in this AI world, I have to explain what is our major concern in the news media industry. So the major concern we have is that we have a great risk of disintermediation, because basically a traditional search engine such as Bing or Google directs an user to diverse sources. And instead, with GenAI models, explains, summarize, and even produces another types of content. And so as for figures, we know that currently AI summaries on Google search are causing the referral traffic to media websites, to fall between 30 and 80%. So if you imagine that you have now like 700 million users in ChatGPT and about 400 million users for Gemini, so for us the stakes are really just essential for journalism. So I have another very clear example. The French Audiovisual Institute, INA, led a very interesting experiment that they describe in an article. And so for over a month, they asked ChatGPT the same question every day. What happened yesterday in Gaza? And the result is that Google News provided between 25 to 60 articles a day, averaging 45 articles, whereas ChatGPT returned only 5 to 10 articles, averaging fewer than 8. So it's about 6 times fewer. And if you made this query in French, the result was that ChatGPT heavily cited foreign media outlets, 81% on average, and sometimes 100%. And in general, they were large US-based media organizations. And when French media were cited and mentioned, they were almost exclusively from major press groups. So here is a risk of disintermediation, and also as we have fewer sources, it augments the risk also of bias. So here is a vital risk for us. And our last concern, of course, is that we know that from the start, AI models were programmed to scrap the entire internet, and without any proper consent and authorization. So now it's vital for us to have our intellectual property rights not only respected and enforced, but also fairly compensated. So it is a point, and here is a point with the data space and how we can bring value to our data. And as for reestablishing the intermediation, so we saw several ways to do it. The first one is the regulation. And at a European level, especially because it sends a clear signal to large platforms and social media about the fact that they have to respect fair and ethical rules. The downside, and it was explained really well earlier, is that it takes time to do it, that the rules can be difficult to understand for the different players, and so it's hard for them to follow them consistently. And the second and most important way to achieve this intermediation are also the European co-funded projects, such as the data spaces, and they are a strong way to create a momentum in the highly fragmented media sector. And AFP is involved in many of these projects, and to advance mutual beneficial solutions in partnerships with other media organization, and especially within TEMS. TEMS is the trusted European media data space. So and in this data space, AFP is leading a use case, and our aim, our ambition is to make our data, verified data from certified media organizations, to make this data easy to find, available for sale, copyright compliant, and so accessible to AI companies.
Thank you. So for the end of this first round, I mean, if I may sum up about the situation. So you explain how strategical data space is for your industry, and to keep value for independent media and journalists. Then we explain how value is created, and there is three main topics. First of one, how you increase your turnover, or you organize your customer fidelization with Pierre. He explained how data could help him to keep his turnover or to develop his own turnover, and then to decrease and to make cost savings with what you explained, Romain, with for your customers who want to organize their human resources or technical resources to have a better organizations. And then Jean-Baptiste, you explain how with CEN-CENELEC you share investment with your other member of the chain. So now, just for 3 minutes, I will keep the hat of the other ex-former CEO of AgData to share some experience with you and feedback about the farming industry. AgData was one of the first data sharing initiative 8 years ago. We were with CEN-CENELEC 3 years ago on the stage of the Gaia X Summit, okay, at the third generation of data space. 8 years ago, nothing of the standardization, there is no DGA, no Data Act, no DSCC, no Gaia X, nothing was in place, but only two pioneer tech providers as Dawex and Orange. But also with some vision of professional farmers like Christian Lambert, the French farmers unions, who say that data is a key for the income of the farmers on EU. And we need to protect data from agro suppliers, global agro suppliers, on global machinery providers. And it's important to have a good balance between the power for farmers to keep their data, the control of their data, and how data can be used. So we were also one of the first data intermediation service providers notified to ARCEP, registered on EU level. And in this situation, I want to explain you what worked and what does not work in order to help you to have this clear feedback. First of all, to have a really clear data space, you need a vision. You need a clear ecosystem motivation in order to have vision about use cases. Okay. The second thing is you need to have a really clear tech providers in order to implement and to deploy the technology for small and medium companies. What does not work for AgData? First, maybe we are a little ahead on the market because some tech component didn't exist. And also, we didn't think enough about use cases. And during this first round, what was really important to create value is to develop use cases. And after that, the data transaction can help to optimize and to industrialize the data transaction. That's why standardization is a key point in order to have a really clear economic effect on the use cases. And the last thing, and I think this is a good job for the DSCC2 call, is the question of the economic model. We try all of them. The freemium one, the subscription one, the free one, and we don't have enough time or cash to start with the public-private partnership because we think that for small and medium companies without a great good industrial leaders or global industrial leaders to share investment like you did in the automobile, it's really difficult, for example, in logistics, in buildings companies, in the farming industry, to have leaders who accept to share investment about it. And I think that now, with all the WCP, we have all the WCP and all the ingredients to succeed for the second generation of data space. And I think that I'm a little proud of being one of the representative of the third generation of data spaces. So I hope that we can help to develop your own data space. And now we'll do that with a second round of discussion with Romain. And in farming industry, we spoke about climate change. We'll speak about CO2 emission savings. So in the airport or for the air flights, there is lots of discussion about the impact of air flights in the climate change. So in the airport, how can you use data in order to organize and to deal with this issue?
Thanks, and thanks for all the advices you gave us in your previous life with data hub experience, AgData hub experience. Of course, climate change is a big topic for airports, and airports are very well engaged in a lot of different action, and there is a specific certification named ACA, Airport Carbon Accreditation. I think it was launched by ACI, Airport Council International, and it's based also here in Europe, and Europe is always first dealing with this kind of questions. One of the big problems for airports to do to calculate the total impact of their activity is that the airport operator that own the airport, for example in Paris at Charles de Gaulle, they don't own the airlines, they don't own the plane, which are a big source of emissions. So they in fact, they separated the scope regarding is it emissions from directly linked to the airport, or is it linked to other parts. So scope 1 and 2 are part of the airport, but scope 3 is from stakeholders. airlines, subcontractors, traffic jam, lot of emission sources. So today they are just using data, but it's very hard to collect. It's time consuming for them to collect it. So what we are trying to launch with a specialist in carbon emission inventory is to launch a dedicated platform to help them to collect data from stakeholders in the aim of calculating a better calculation and so calculating the right amount of CO2 emitted by the airport. So doing that, we build a new data space called Aeroseed, which we have been laureate in September, so it's very fresh, very new, and we are launching it officially mid-October. So, and so in this data space, we want to provide services regarding the data collection for carbon impact, and also to have the automated process to calculate the useful data for airport, which is not the number of flights, but it is the total amount of the CO2 emitted. So that's what we want to provide.
Okay, thanks. And now, Pierre, I mean, transportation is also one of targeted industry about CO2 issues. So how do you deal with that in your company?
Actually, with the different transportation mode, we can have access to different kind of data. For air freight, if you send the air flight number, the airport from destination A to destination B, we can have for the kilos we send, how many CO2 we send to in the earth. But when we speak about trucks, with our own trucks, we know which kind of fuel we put inside. If it's a mix of green energy and fossil energy. But when we use subcontractors and they use other subcontractors, it's more and more difficult to get this information because we don't know which truck they use, which if they were full with our shipments, because they can share shipment with other companies. So it's getting very hard to get the right data. So we calculate a percentage with the truck information that we have, but that's why I continue to say that to share the same language between the different companies will help us and help the small business companies to send those data, because at the moment they sometimes don't have any digital tools. The little truck companies, they have their mobile phone and they don't want to install an application from our company. So it's hard to tell them that we need some information, not only for the CO2, but even for the track and trace. It's difficult to, when you don't own the trucks, to know exactly where is your shipment at any moment, 24 hours on 24, every day of the week. So everywhere in the world. So it's data collection. It's a subject that we are trying to absorb through this common language.
Okay, thanks. And when we spoke about climate change, we spoke about sustainability. And so, Jean-Baptiste, you can speak about sustainability in the automotive industry, but also sustainability in the public tools or public funding tools. And I think that it's important that you share with us your vision about how European tools can be mobilized in order to develop this data space infrastructures, because we need to have a really clear vision about it. So what do you think about that?
Sure, thank you. It's working. Well, I think we're a little bit at the tipping point here for data spaces, and I'm very glad that you presented the experience of the difficulties that you've been experiencing in the agricultural sector. My feeling is that we really need to accelerate, and I was listening to that discussion about standards, which is interesting and important, but from a user perspective, so as an industrial player, I try to make a step back from that conversation, because at the end of the day, what drives me is adoption and the fact that we have more and more players that come to the market and use the data space logic. So that's really what we see as the most urgent, if we think that model that we have been building and designing in Europe wants to survive. So that's really the momentum that we have, the vision that we should build. And for me, we should indeed align the different tools that we have at national and European level towards that direction. And the data space at the end, and I'm a big supporter of data space, I'm also the advisory of Fraunhofer, SST, and so. But for me, data space is a tool to achieve a bigger ambition, which is really that digital continuity in our industry, and the fact also that in Europe we continue to be competitive also for the next transformation and the next journey of our industry. And for me, one of that is really that software battle. I mean, we see that the value is really shifting to software. This is the case for the automotive industry. This is the case for machinery builder. This is the thing for other industry. And if we think this is the challenge, if we think this is the way we want to go, we need to align the different tools for that. So we have a cloud strategy for that. We have a data space strategy for that. We have a semiconductor strategy because you need computing capacity. So this is the way we should build that. And we should align those tools together. So the pledge we are starting to have is to say, if we say that, and right now we're discussing the next series of the IPCI round, specifically IPCI for AI. So we had previously an IPCI for cloud also. We should embed that data space in that strategy, because IPCI is one of the tools where we say we go for adoption, we help companies in incentivizing also their capex costs, but they go for market production, what they put in the market. And if you put data space in that logic, for me, you give a scale-up effect to that strategy. That's super important. And some of the use cases that we see for the automotive industry, for example, is to say, tomorrow we want to build on larger scale a software offer. For that, we need data that comes from vehicles, that come from our product development, but we need to do that in a trusted environment. We need to have a governance system where we decide how we share the cost, what we price for data. We are certainly coupling that with an open source logic. So again, you have that notion of trusted identity, trusted transaction, trusted product that you ship from one step to the other. And there the data space is absolutely one of the tools that you need to succeed in that. So for me, we should really make sure that we align again those tools to this objective of making sure that we're going to be able to master that software transformation in our industry. So and we are in the moment where we're discussing this next series of that, so we should keep that in mind. And just also coming back to another point that you made, one of the difficulty also that you have for data space is that, I would say, antagonism between fast adoption and midterm adoption, where you also master the complexity of the use cases. And coming back to one of your points, is it the use case that drives, is it the infrastructure that drives? And you have that tension also in the data space in which I am, and this is the personal view, my personal view and view of Valeo. I think to make CO2 data together, you don't need a data space. Honestly, you can do that today, but then you acknowledge the fact that you work with average data, partial data, maybe not trusted data. If you want to go to the next frontier, moving to primary data, just to keep on your example, so really data that comes out of the factory, of really people that are doing the transformation, you need a data space, because you're going to the next frontier, you're making more data together. You also have a big issue of confidentiality, because my tier 5 is not willing to share with me all the details that are related to CO2. They just want to give me a CO2 value, but then if they master better than other, for example, their production system that will reduce their CO2, they don't want necessarily to tell me how they do that, because that's their capacity to be competitive, to charge me for more money and to earn money. So, and there absolutely you need that data specialist. So it's very important to keep in mind that we should have ambitious use cases. We should help to, data space are here to master complexity. And if you say that, again, I think there we need a little bit help in the system, because this is an ecosystem thinking, and as well, I mean, certainly as an industry, we need help with the IPCR tools to make sure that we have effective sharing between the partners and we move in the right direction in terms of guiding the investment to the same stream. And this is also one of the things I think is important in that thinking of how we align industry and public policies. I mean, giving a shared vision of investment channels is important. I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, and Carole, when you spoke about economic issue and the sustainability of your sectors, what could be the most important challenge for your sectors? And I think that you asked for more regulation to protect small companies or journalists. Can you explain us how you can see the sustainability of your sectors?
We have several pain points. Yes, we need regulation because first to enforce ethical and fair rules, and to get this compensation, fair compensation, because now our main problem is everybody can access data or facts or journalism, and so, more often and increasingly the sources are misleading. We have false claims, so people are used to get free access to journalism and fact-checking, and now the problem we have is to tell people, these facts, this fact-checking is time-consuming, it's money-consuming also. And so, yes, a good information needs money. And here it's not the mindset, the general mindset. So I hope that we will succeed in gaining, make this data and this fact-checking data valuable and fairly compensated, and not only for big organization media outlets like AFP, but also for a small organization. And here also there is a challenge for small media organization in terms of technological access, because there is a question of financial means, and a lack of financial means also a lack of technical means. So that's why we think that a data space is a very powerful way to create this momentum, and also to allow small organizations, smallest media, to benefit from such a union and federation of goodwill, and also that the technical means that we have, maybe we can also leverage and use them for this small organization. So here are the main pain points. Is first to make people understand, and the public audience understand, that yes, information is not a good like the others, and that you have to pay for this, and then to also embark all the highly fragmented media sector, and so make the small organization benefit of this momentum.
Thank you. And I will finish this one with also the farming industry with 2 points. I mean, for example, for farmers who want to share data in order to prove sustainable oilseeds production for biofuels, maybe for logistics or airplane, you can get till 40 euros a ton of prime. So this is also an increase of 15% of the global price oilseeds market. So it works really well. And also for the second thing, Jean-Baptiste, you spoke about public tools available on EU level for the farming industry. There will be the EDIC, the European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, which could be an opportunity for some industry to do so, specifically for fragmented chain like farmers, when there is a lack of market, a lack of global leaders who want to co-invest on it. So there is some interesting tools to do so. So maybe the two last words for you before answering to your questions. I mean, I will start with Jean-Baptiste, and at the end, Romain will speak special bonus because he's one of the two labeled data intermediation service providers in Europe, I think so, as a labeled DISP. So Jean-Baptiste, for the small conclusion, and after we'll do that for Pierre, Carole, and Romain.
Well, small conclusion. I think we have invented in Europe a model where we think that not a few will take all in terms of data sharing. So we should continue push that logic till the end, and really make sure that we align that legal ambition with the rest of the tools that we deploy between the industry and, I would say, the regulator at large. So that's one of my key message here, because we've been learning from, I would say, this first generation of data space, and we see that now we should desperately go to full deployment. And the fact that we build a shared vision, I think, related to use cases, and that's also a little bit the automotive logic, that we lower the cost of building the infrastructure is really key to me.
Thanks. Pierre?
For the supply chains to be more resilient and sustainable, and that we keep our sovereignty, I think we need to have those trust data transactions, which mean good data quality, use the standards so we can ease the communication, and trusted, because we spoke for AFP that we need trust data, and we need to make sure of the identity of who is sending the information. And for this, there are still a lot of work to do on standardization. And Guillaume Rotti said before that Europe cannot put too much money on the standardization because it has to come from industry. But as you said, the logistic and supply chain, there are thousands of companies, and the small one will not take the lead, and the big one, if they take the lead, it can be a standardization made from Amazon, for example, which is kind of risky for supply chain in France and in Europe overall.
Carole?
The current speech is that, at least in the US, is that regulation kills innovations. And I think that innovation can thrive with regulation, and it is necessary, and that we have to defend our European model in terms in general, and it's very important in the media sectors, that we have this difference, that there is a European way, and that it's important to have ethics, and to promote fairness. And I think we can get it through a balanced regulation. And yes, it's hard to find the right balance between innovation and regulation. But I think at least we are trying to do it, and it's very important for the media sector to be protected by this regulation, because now we are kind of invaded by large foreign social media and platforms, and yes, we have to defend our cultural and European exceptions.
So I don't know if we are the second one certified in Europe, but for sure we are the first one in the airport system. So Cocorico. And yeah, so it was important for us because we wanted to be seen as a pioneer, regarding the to be compliant with the EU regulation. And what for it's help us to get data, to engage in fact discussion with data providers, proving them that we won't steal the value from their data. We want to share the value of it. Data intermediation is a service that also needs to be paid. So sometimes it's not always well understood, like, okay, but yeah, we found the acquirer, we found the provider, we give you the platform, the trusted transaction one, you are compliant with EU regulation, and this is a service you can pay that has value, in fact, in the ecosystem. So the thing is, the important thing also for us was to use platform and tools that are compliance by design, in fact, and so the data services we provide are compliant by design to those regulations. So that's a very strong point. And yeah, I think the biggest benefit of the label is that it proved that the provider could have trust in the data intermediary, and that's a very big point to help them liberate the data and makes it valuable for the overall ecosystem, airport ecosystem.
Okay, thanks. And maybe as a conclusion, just with your four example, you explain how industry get organized through strong data spaces, infrastructures, and ecosystems. So this is the base for the season 2. So if I could make a wish for the season 3, that based on the really strong data space or sectorial data space, the goal with standardization will be to make a cross data spaces interoperability in order to create more value in EU and on the global level. That will be great. So see you by 4 years. Thanks a lot for your intervention. And I don't know if you have some questions.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, one question to whoever can answer that. Did any one of you calculate the economic value of a use case in euros?
Before working on the global semantic language, the transport industry, we are buying companies to grow. So it's organic growth through buying new companies, and they have their own digital system, so their own transport management system. So the first ROI was for us to be able to communicate on all the supply chain that we provide as a Heppner. We have to be able to speak the same language between our different countries or different TMS. And just for the reporting side of the ROI, we found to build this project internally, we had the ROI in 3 years, because it is different kind of reporting, financial reporting, but also we are able to give a new digital service to our customers for the track and trace, and also for all those data needed for the CO2 emission. So there is many different use cases that we can provide, and we didn't even calculate the ROI for this. The ROI was already just to build this reporting, because when we build the reports, there is the data analysis that you can see in your different system, Power BI, Tableau, and etc. But when you go down, the hard thing is to collect the data and to put all these data in the same data model. Then you can show reports, and so that's why we can do this without investing in a global project, even if we want to do this, because there is already a ROI internally for Heppner.
Okay. Anna?
Yeah. First, thank you very much. Fantastic panel. So congratulations, Sebastian, and also all the speakers. And next time we should put the users at the beginning of because you are really driving us also. So that's the first comment. Second, I have a question and then an announcement. The question, and we can take into the break, because I know it's late. So talking about financial sustainability, and we had a very convincing viewpoint from Jean-Baptiste, how important it is to scale quickly and how a scale is connected to the financial sustainability. But there I have a question. And then you brought up together, Carole and you, Sebastian, some possibilities that we have, for instance, with ethics, but that requires coordination between member states and public investments, right? So in your case, that seems to be more privately driven, right? But also in the case of counting on these ethics, what I see, and we have discussed with some of the ongoing data spaces, is there is a moment that you see, yeah, we have successful use cases, we are ready to scale, but that scaling is the chicken and egg. No, you need to be ready for the scaling. You need to show sustainability for people, to convince people to invest and to scale quickly. And it seems that there is a gap from the moment that you think that are almost there and the time you are there, right? And that's what we have discussed with some of the. So that's a question again we can discuss in the break. What is needed during that moment? What do we really need to make sure that moment until the scaling actually is happening? Do we need more funding? Do we need more? What needs to happen there? And I understand it's not only software. And then, well, again, it's a long question on other possibilities in public-private solutions like the ethics. No. Before I give you the microphone, just an announcement, because I don't want to speak more. We launched from the Data Spaces Support Center the European Data Spaces Awards, recently launched, also in collaboration with the European Commission, actually to give visibility to things that you have been explaining today on a stage. Just look at it or ask me later on, because things that I heard today from you are the things that we want to celebrate with those awards. But now back to the question if we have time. Thank you very much.
Anna, it's a great question. I mean, and the phases are, I work for 4 different industries, and it was always the same thing. First, we need to have a clear vision that data space infrastructures needs between 8 to 10 years to achieve break-even. Okay, 8 to 10 years to achieve break-even. So we need cash, but we need cash in 3 main phases. First phases, and it works well. This is a build. You build the infrastructures, the ecosystem, you organize all the ecosystem, governance, tech providers, open source community, and you make the design and you implement on the base on the MVP. Okay, and it works really well with Horizon Europe and on all the European funding for CSA, all that stuff. This is the easy part. So it works well. The problem is the valley of death between the 4 to 8 or 10 years. In this situation, you need cash to scale up. okay, to deploy that. And you need a great use cases with really clear return on investment in order to succeed in convincing participants to get on board and to achieve a critical mass of transaction or participant. And this is the difference between a private approach based on industrial leaders or a public approach, for example, with EDIC or something like that. So we need to find together a solution for this valley of death. We need to go through together, either private, either on public, either on private. We don't have the key aspect. But this is a season 2, and we need to find a solution together about it. And after, for season 3, everything will be all right. This is my point of view. Okay.
If I may, I think it also relies on a community, building a community, but a very large one, including all the actors of your sector, and I think it's a basis of apart the financial means. I think that the community is super important.
When I started the panel, I said that there is where value is created on data transaction or on use cases, and I think this is both. I mean, if you have no use case with return of investment, you don't need a data space. You said that, Jean-Baptiste. I mean, if there is no value created for and by participant, you don't need a data intermediary infrastructure to do so. So there is a link between these two markets. There is a link to create value between partners, between participants, and there is a link between partners, participant, and infrastructures. I think so. Jean-Baptiste?
Well, yeah, I don't want to take the microphone from the others, but well, I think I a little bit answered that before. My feeling is that in terms of public strategy or even private strategy, this should be aligned with, I mean, I would say the midterm transformation that you're thinking for. So I was talking about the software issue or a strategic vision that we have in the automotive industry, where we know that this is the next product development that we go. Since a few years now, you have, I would say, we consider us as traditional player in the automotive industry. I mean, we produce parts, but since a few years, and we are not the only one, we're producing purely software offers, which was something that no one was expecting 20 years ago. So this is the way where we go, and then you should align the different tools that helps you to do that. Data space is one of them, again, because this helps you. It's not an end game per se, it's just because this helps you to master the complexity. It is to master the fact that you're going to build an ecosystem to succeed in your product development, in maintaining then the software behind and so on. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit the way I see that.
Thank you. Thanks again.